Kamala Harris, as we've said, presumptive Democratic nominee for president. Her campaign is vetting candidates at the moment to be her running mate. Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro, the Arizona Senator Mark Kelly, and Roy Cooper of North Carolina are some of the reported frontrunners. They're all white men from swing states. Peter Emerson is a founding partner of Cape International, which provides political and policy expertise. He's worked for every Democratic presidential campaign since 1976 and has worked for 3 Democratic administrations and joins us here on Times Radio. Good evening to you, Peter.
Delighted to be with you.
Thanks so much for being with us. I'm really looking forward to tapping into that big brain of yours, the expertise that comes with so many decades. Tell me about Kamala Harris, very different to Joe Biden. So the presidential campaign has had to, no doubt, reassess what they're doing, come up with a different game plan. Tell me what might be going on behind the scenes at the moment as we wait for Kamala Harris to make her first big rally speech.
Your colleague a short while ago made a very important point. She is the GOTV, the Get Out the Vote candidate. She's going to bring young people back into the Democratic Party and, more importantly, into the electoral process that we lost after Barack Obama. That's huge because at the end of the day, it's not just the popular vote, as you all well know. It's also those key states that have the electoral votes that will determine the next president of the United States. So Kamala Harris brings not just this excitement, whether it be Brat or in general, this youth and vigor, but it's also the fact that in a debate with Donald Trump, as she so poignantly and powerfully pointed out yesterday in her speech before the campaign headquarters in Delaware, she's prosecuted rapists, she's prosecuted frauds, and she's prosecuted almost every criminal act that Donald Trump has been convicted or accused of. So that will be a very, very powerful tool for this campaign as they begin to now adjust from the messaging of Biden's reelect to Kamala Harris's direct election.
And look, compared to what we know about Joe Biden, his decades-long political career, he served as a senator for 3 times as many years as Kamala Harris, maybe even more. We know so much about Joe Biden. We don't know an awful lot about Kamala Harris, and I wonder how the Democrats play that in their strategy. How do we get to know Kamala Harris, and how does the Democrat campaign avoid Donald Trump, digging up things from Kamala Harris's past or throwing things at her that we didn't already know, that perhaps voters aren't prepared for?
That is probably the most important point that I would have made. It would be malpractice on my part or anyone's part to talk about this as just Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. We're also against a candidate that one of the Supreme Court justices has already said has been declared king by our Supreme Court. So the coronation, so to speak, that is often now attributed to the process that Kamala is going to go through, that's already been given to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has proven he will do anything to win and dissemble the democracy we have. So the Democrats have to be prepared for everything, not just the reality or the truth, but anything that can be made up. And as you all are probably very well aware, artificial intelligence will play a huge role in this election. It is, in fact, in my mind, the first artificial intelligence election.
Yeah.
And it's being played by Russia, by China, by North Korea, and by the Trump campaign. So it's a twofold. The Kamala Harris folks now need to roll out her profile and what she's accomplished and the extraordinary background she has.
We know that there's
apologies.
Carry on, Peter. Sorry.
Well, they have to be prepared for every lie, every visual deception that the Trump people throw at her. And it's going to be racist. It's going to be all sorts of innuendo and rumors, none of which are probably going to be true. But we've already had that threshold lowered in 2016. So people are accustomed here, unfortunately. Yeah. And oftentimes they don't know what to believe anymore. We're living in a vacuum of facts and truth, which is incredibly dangerous. It is corrosive and ultimately could be, the death knell to a democracy.
Yeah, and it's just whether voters are fully aware of what is real and what is not real. And younger voters may be more savvy, but they may be with Kamala Harris already. It could be the older voters who are not so savvy. Who knows? There's a record crowd for the event this afternoon, of course, in US time, said to be the largest event in the Democratic Party campaign so far this year. They had to switch venues because they were inundated with RSVPs. So a huge crowd expected for this rally in Wisconsin today. Let's talk about the vice president pick, if that's okay. There are a number of favourites, all in swing states. This isn't coincidental, of course. I'm sure that this would be something you would advise as well, Peter. Tell us a little bit about some of the runners, and maybe if there's one that you're more keen on.
I'm keen on winning this election, not just because I want Kamala Harris to be president, because I want to save the democracy. And that, to me, is the message that the Democratic Party and even independents need to put out, that we're really talking about the democracy. We're not talking about one party beating another party. As it relates to the choice of who's going to be the vice presidential candidate with Senator Harris, Vice President Harris, that's going to be a combination of both. What do they bring to the ticket, so to speak, in terms of electoral? There isn't much evidence over the history that a vice presidential candidate brings that much to the ticket in terms of electoral. But it is important on these issues like immigration, Gaza, Israel, and other major Ukraine, that this ticket be not just balanced, but also drive home a message that we're not just fighting for democracy here at home, but we're standing by our democratic partners abroad. I don't have a particular favorite. I've gotten to know Josh Shapiro a bit, think the world of him. I don't know Governor Cooper. Mark Kelly, of course, is a national hero. He's an astronaut, and he represents, by the fact and the tragedy of his wife having been almost assassinated, the very dark, dark underbelly of guns in America. So I think all three provide a huge, huge opportunity for Vice President Harris to bring some of these issues to the forefront with people who have experienced it, not people who are thinking about it. Emotions play the key role in politics. It's not about policy positions. It's not what I think, it's what I feel.
Yeah. And
That's
we've
the
seen so
excitement.
much of that already. You
Yes.
know, even hearing Donald Trump speak at the Republican National Convention last week, where was the policy in there? It was all about emotion. And I wonder whether that's, well, I'm sure that is likely what we're going to hear from Kamala Harris in her first big rally speech this evening as the presumptive nominee for president from the Democrats. Look, thank you so much for being with us. I'd love to speak again soon. Pete Emerson, who is the founding partner of CAPE International, provides political and policy expertise, worked on every Democratic presidential campaign since 1976. Huge pleasure. Thank you, Peter.